Welcome to Big Ideas, the podcast where three co hosts rotate roles to explore real conversations, meaningful ideas, and the decisions that shape our lives. I'm Jessica Broadway. Today I've got on my mom hat, but I'm also a coach, author, and speaker who works with people who are navigating seasons of change. And I am joined by my amazing co-hosts today. Justin, kick it to you.
Hello, I am Justin Gabassi, a human optimization coach, professional touring musician, and I'm currently traveling the world studying how culture, health, and human connection intersect across different societies all over. Hello.
Hey, hey.
Hey, I'm Mark, a father, partner and mate, creative, an artist, an actor, and I'm a co-host with you guys.
Yes.
And that's me.
Cool, man.
Well, today's topic, I'm very excited. What I hope happens is I get to talk as a mom, but then we turn the tables and you guys get to give me advice on what young men need because you've both been there before. But our topic today is motherhood and the ever-changing face of it. It has many seasons, and particularly the lens that I will be speaking from is a mom of boys. What do they specifically need from their moms? So in this episode, we're going to try to answer that question of what do teenage boys need from their moms specifically, talking about that mom and son's relationship. And so I hope that sharing my perspective of what it's like to be a mom of boys, and then you guys contributing what it was like from your perspective watching your mom mother you, and like if you could go back, what would you have asked for? What would you need? And maybe perhaps like we can open this conversation and see all the different angles of it, because the relationship between a mom and her son is a very unique relationship. And I don't think it gets enough conversation. So thanks for being willing to talk about something that I get a front row seat to. And I thought we could start out with kind of painting the picture for everybody about the stages of motherhood. Is that something you guys have ever heard before, that there are stages to motherhood?
Sure. Can I just say something first? I'd love to know where you're at. I want your POV before we jump in.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, so my POV is Easter weekend. It's Friday, and we've got everybody home. So my boys are hanging out in the other room, waiting on me to get done here so we can go do some fun Friday stuff.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, okay, Mark, I'll go. I'm in Thailand, and I don't really know. It's interesting because I know Easter's this weekend, right? And there's not the typical thing. You don't see all the stuff everywhere at the stores. You don't see the Easter bunny stuff and all that. I know there's people here that celebrate it, but it'll be interesting on Sunday. It's different because it's, for me, being over here, you just don't. I'm not as immersed in sort of the holiday changes. You know what I mean? So it'll be fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll go out and do my own Easter thing on Sunday. Maybe I'll hide some eggs in the beach. I don't know.
Cool.
Mark,
I'm currently in Springfield, Mo, at the Gig Salad office. But as soon as we're done, I'm darting off to pick up me lady, and we're heading to Bentonville, one of our favorite places to spend a weekend. It's a belated birthday gift to me. So we'll have some fun down there. Go to the Conifer. We're going to go to the Conifer. Gluten-free restaurant, entirely gluten-free. Anyone can go there and have the most impeccable meal ever. And we're going to stay at a new hotel down there. And yeah, it's Easter weekend. We'll come back and going to have Easter brunch with my folks. And then I'm going to take off for Wilmington, North Carolina. It's more than you've asked for, but that's what I'm doing. That's my POV. Let's talk about mothering teenage boys.
Well, before we get into that, I do have a question. It's a little off topic, but on topic for Easter. If I said to you, Mark specifically, it's Friday, but would you know how to finish that sentence on Easter weekend?
It's Friday, but on Easter weekend, it's Good Friday.
You, Justin?
No. Man, I'm glad you got this question, bro. I don't know. I'm at a loss here for words.
Dang it.
I was curious if maybe like if you're listening to this, what is the end of that sentence? Pop it down in the comments. And maybe I'll answer it at the end. I'm gonna leave you guys hanging on it.
Man, I'm definitely going to ask you at the end. This
Okay.
is like this some like young new cool kid thing that you're learning from your
No,
sons.
it's not. But
Okay.
it is a particular lens, and I was just curious. I
It's
thought maybe Mark would know it.
Easter weekend. It's Easter weekend,
Yeah.
but it's Friday, or
It's
say it again.
Friday, but you have to finish the sentence.
It's Easter weekend. It's Friday, but okay.
So
Well,
it has something to do with
hey, listen,
Easter.
audience, just so you know, this noggin right now for the rest of the 45 minutes will be giving you about 45% of
You're
whatever
right.
I answer talking about the subject, because over here the mice will be going just spinning
Man,
that wheel trying to
Wait,
figure it out.
can I
Thanks,
put you
Jessica.
out of your misery early?
yep.
Oh, you
One
better,
year.
because I'm
It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Now do you know it?
it's coming. No,
Still
explain it.
nothing?
Explain it more.
Jesus was crucified on Friday and he rose again on Sunday.
Yeah.
I am a Christ follower. Everyone went to Catholic church. A little less
I
than half
thought
my life.
maybe you would know that, but maybe I'm just live in a bubble where that's said often and very often. But yeah,
Catholic till I was 25, and I completely missed that. I'm sorry if I disappointed you, Mom and Dad,
well,
or
note
the
to
rest of the
self, as
Christian
we
world.
segue into motherhood, I need to make sure that my kids know that phrase, right?
Really good. That's really good. Yeah. All right. Thank you, though. Okay.
Okay, now we're let's collect. Let's
Okay.
talk about the phases of motherhood.
Where
So
does this thing begin? Yeah. Phase one. What's that one?
I think this is really important. There's what I've learned, of course. So right now in this season, I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and almost 11-year-old. Okay.
A lot of testosterone.
Yes. And so we are,
And Josh.
yes, and my husband, which I would not call him a child. And I think that's probably the first rule of motherhood is that just because you have children doesn't mean your husband's one of them. So
That's right.
stop referring to your bonus child as your husband. He has a different role and he doesn't need you to mother him. Okay.
That's right.
That's my strong PSA for the day is please don't mother your husbands. It doesn't work well for anybody. And it also sets up a really bad pattern for young boys when they watch that happen. So, okay, let's leave that there on that soapbox. But with boys, what I have learned is there's this specific relationship between moms and their sons, and every developmental process is that early attachment phase. Then there's the detachment phase in the teen years, which is supposed to happen. They're supposed to explore autonomy and separate from the family unit so that they can have healthy reattachments to their partners down the line. Okay. So, what happens, of course, you've all probably heard attachment styles. Those early years of attachment are so important that you establish healthy attachments in the early stage. But you know what? When you do healthy attachments in the early stage, it makes the detachment phase really, really painful because you don't want them to detach. You love having your little boys. So specifically with boys will leave their mother like a little bit earlier. Like girls and their mothers typically buddy up and they have friction in those teen years, but it's a different relationship. Their mom becomes the mentor to teaching her how to do motherly things, womanhood. They have that bond. But a mom and her boys, like once he detaches, it's very difficult to still feel connected because what am I going to tell him about becoming a man? You know what I mean? Like there just starts to be a shift in developmental processes that I don't know about. So the specific angle of boys and their moms, there's that early age of dependency. Then there's that guidance and training phase where you're like, hey, like these are the things you need to know. But then once that autonomy phase kicks in, it's like a whole nother ball game. You have to lean on the influence that you have on him versus the control. one, you won't physically be able to control him. He'll be big, most likely be bigger than you, tougher than you, stronger than you. And emotionally, if you try to control him, it will be manipulation because it'll be trying to get him to do what you want him to do rather than trying to influence the decisions he makes and his manhood. So I think that's like an important piece to like talk about, is that there are stages to this. And if you understand that awareness, you can maybe start pinpointing like where you are in that growth and development process. Will tell you a lot about what season you're in and what you should be focusing on. Did you guys kind of does that make sense when I talk about those evolving stages? Can you share a little bit about your perspective and what those looked like? Like, can you see back in retrospect you going through those phases?
You mean to go first, Mark?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was definitely, there was some pretty clear phases for me because my mom has been she's been such an, probably the biggest, influence in my life. And I wasn't super close to my biological father. Fortunately, over the years, we're starting to reconnect a bit. And my stepdad has been in my life a long time, and he's been wonderful, and he's a good father figure. But my mom was always like the biggest influence. Like, she was there no matter what, right? And I think in the early stages, um, it was very, we were even kind of like alone for about the first 5 years before other siblings started to show up. And I think at that point, I mean, I was young, but I kind of, in retrospect, recall sort of like needing my mommy, right? Like in a very coddling sort of way. And then as I started getting into adolescence, early puberty, stuff like that, that role shifted, and she really seemed to know what to do there. That's where I think, I've said in other podcasts where she introduced the weights to me and like really helping me focus on sports and different things. She could see that I needed to channel all that testosterone and energy and that awkward adolescent stuff in there. And I think I'm going to be interested to hear your perspective, because I don't really know how and where the shift went from. I mean, she just seemed to figure it out, but I don't really, I can't see it clearly in my head, but it seemed to happen where then she switched roles. And I think it's going to be really fun for me to hear your perspective. Cause like, as someone that may be a father someday, you know, from the outside perspective, to watch this dynamic, that's going to be really interesting for me to know, well, how would the wife of my children navigate that other part, that disconnection part, where she can send him off into the great wide open without, you know what I mean? So that's my Cliff Note version. Mark, you're up, bro.
My mother came from a, a long line of a lot of women. She had two sisters. She had an aunt that lived right next door. I think she had a grandmother that lived in the home early on. Maybe I might be making that up. No, she lived next door as well. But lots of women, and yeah, and so I'm adopted as well. I don't know how that would possibly come into play, but I'll state it. My mother talked to me like I was an adult from
Mm-hmm.
probably middle age on. Like, I feel like my mother was a mother in all the age appropriate ways. I feel like she prepared me, and she was preparing me to become an independent man.
Hmm. I feel that way too.
Yeah. And I applaud her for it. I'm very glad. Subsequently, that's how I fathered. And both of my parents were like this. I mean, of course, I have fond memories of my mother as a young child, being very tender and sweet, and um, holding my hand. To this day, when my mother touches me, it's such a special. Such a special connection. It's powerful.
Hmm.
And I know that it comes from a place of res- like respect and honor, and you're a man. There's that. She's second generation Italian, so she was. Her parents were these sort of tough Italians, and in a great way, great culture. I love it, but just watch The Godfather. Be a man. That was my mother.
That's funny, man. My mom was too, yeah, from a family
Yeah,
of eight, also Italian. I can relate to that, man. There is that strong thing.
it is. Yeah.
And it kind of paints, I don't know if we'll get into this or not, Jessica, but it kind of paints also how the kind of women that it sets a standard, right? When you grow up with really strong, exceptional women like that, it's
Yep.
so
And I think
anyway.
what I heard you both saying there was so encouraging to me as a mom, because I'm thinking about this is especially tender topic for me right now because I'm about to have one leaving. It's so hard. When he was little, or when he was maybe 7 or 8, I heard someone say that raising boys is like the hardest breakup you've ever been through. And I was like, that's silly, And then I watched him just, growing into himself a little bit more and more. Oh, it's hard. It's hard to watch them step into their manhood and to know that, you know, they will have to own all the decisions that they make now going forward. And that your job is to be there just to love them through all the versions they're going to become. But you're shaping and you're growing and you're molding, and your influence is kind of shifting now. It's different. I'm already preparing my heart to release and to wish him well. But this is that part of motherhood that I don't think we talk about enough, is the grief that comes with the changing seasons and the letting go. There's this kind of silent toxic positivity that runs through the motherhood circles that talks about, moms being underappreciated or overwhelmed or all of these different aspects. And yes, those are feelings that we experience, but they're not part of our identity. And what they're really revealing to us is our fear of letting go, right? Or the fear of asking for help, or all the things that we wish we had access to that we don't have. And each season of motherhood, I think what I thought I did really well, and now I'm learning to remind myself of that now in this season of motherhood, is that I really went deep dive in each season. When they were little, I loved them up. I hugged on them, kissed on them. And one thing I appreciated about Josh is he let me coddle them and love on them. And he did too. And I think that's so important. I do hear sometimes that dads are afraid that their moms are going to make the kids too soft. Those early attachment years are where they learn that it's okay to feel and it's okay to connect emotionally. And it's so sacred and important. And Justin, you talked about like knowing when to shift. That's so painful when you've been the one they come to and they hug, and then like what your mom did for you about bringing those weights to you. It makes me emotional, hearing that she was able to set her feelings aside and to know what you needed and to step in there. And that is what motherhood is about, is like, it's not about the way I feel, it's about what you need.
Man.
I'd like to say something about that. I think the single thing, and I feel you and hear you, I see you, Jessica. It brings up my own emotion. My mother, to this day, is one of the most selfless, to almost probably to a fault. She was no Matt. She would not be somebody you would walk all over. She's tough, but her unconditional love and her ability to put others before her in what they need. And for me, I was not a good teenager. I was an angst-driven, lost kid, and probably brought a lot more pain and struggle to my folks. Dad was working a lot and traveled a lot internationally for business. And so mom was often left at home to do all the parenting. She did her best. And
Mm.
in spite of me being sometimes inconsiderate and rude,
Man, I
but
am
she loved me. Man, she loved. She took it. She took it all on the chin so often.
Motherhood is a ministry. It is
Yep.
the art of loving and caring for others, whether you attach ministry as a faith component or not. Ministering to, caring over other people is what motherhood is. There's a sign that's on my living room wall that says the greatest work you'll ever do is the work inside these four walls.
Mhm.
finding out that I was a mom of gonna have a boy first was like, okay. And then number 2 and number 3, I was like, I just got charged with raising 3 men that will contribute to society one day. Like, that's a tall order. I'm
Yeah.
shaping the men of the future. That is a huge calling, and not to diminish anything of moms of daughters. You are raising my son's wives, and I covet your attention to that. And I pray over you every single day because you're raising, the future women that will partner with my sons, I hope one day. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I pray for her every day. And I look forward to how that journey unfolds. I don't take the responsibility lightly that I get to influence and shape those leaders of tomorrow so much. Justin, you were going to say something there. What was that?
Just when you brought up the topic, I thought, oh, this is going to be great for moms to listen to. And I now want all of my buddies, everyone that has obviously men in this case specifically. I'm like, you need to go listen to this because you guys are getting emotional, but so am I. Like, it's like to Jessica, you're one of my dearest friends, and I respect you so much as a mom, and I see how phenomenal of a mom you are. And my mom is a complete badass, and I to watch your emotion is making me realize how well my mom has handled so many things. Like, I appreciate her beyond the moon, and I value her like so much. She's the number one person I value on the planet. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I already knew she was great, but now I'm like, oh geez, I'm watching you get emotional. I'm like, man, and we just talked really late last night. There's a 12-hour difference, in Thailand, and she's so cool about worrying, but there's a lot going on the planet right now. And she's like, is everything okay? Like, make it back all right? Or like, there's a couple times I've been sick out here, and I'm a grown man now. I'm in my 4th decade, but she plays it real cool. She's real supportive, but I can sense the relief. She's like, okay, I'm just really glad to know you're okay. I'm glad and to hear like the emotion that you're going through, I'm like, oh man, I just appreciate and respect her even more. So thank you. This is for everyone. So anyway, let's keep rolling. This is great.
My mother's going to turn 86 in a couple of weeks, and she still worries. She worries about, it's not even a worry. She's probably some worry, whether it's the grandkids, it's me, my sister. It's just always that sort of idea of like, what are you doing? Like you're going too fast. You're doing too much. You're always on the go. It's just this worry thing. But back to the teenage, I just want to mention, Jessica, the thing that stands out the most is the most fondest memories I have of my mother is when I was either doing a sport or doing a show, she was my biggest fan. I remember hearing her watch me play basketball and and her and I was there was one game in particular I was on fire, and she was hooting and hollering, and that was so out of character. She was just so supportive of me and everything I've ever done. Be, a, be the biggest fan. Be the biggest fan. Let them know that you believe in them and that you're there when they make mistakes. She always, and when I wasn't performing at my very best, when I wasn't being the best version of myself, she reminded me. She did not hold back. She was like, she let her disappointment be known because she knew I was either not applying myself or not doing my best, and she wouldn't tolerate that. So there was a toughness about her, but I knew it came from a place of, hey, you're not acting like you're not acting proud enough of yourself right now. Like, you're not act in a way that you should be proud. And come on, chop chop. She's think about a female version of Marlon Brando in The Godfather. She's Don Corleone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Man. So Jessica, keep rolling. I mean, this is there's so much to cover.
So when I was hearing you talk, Mark, it reminded me of something that one of my friends we kind of have a laugh about it, but I cry at the weirdest things that my kids do. But it's always, if I'll probably cry right now, even just thinking about it, but it's always the moment where they're living their best life, like
Hmm.
completely untethered and not a care in the world. And they're living their moment. And it is such an honor to get to witness and bear witness to someone living their best life, you know?
Hmm.
And it could be playing dress up. I just sit and, I used to make all of their costumes, and now I don't make many costumes at all anymore because they're just out of that phase, and I the way I taught them, or the principle we have in our house, is like create what you wish existed. So we would always go to the thrift stores and get like basics and then create what we wish existed from something. You always have to start with something. Let your creativity, like, no limits, like, let's do this. And so I've always kind of cultivated that through the things that we do. And to hear them state those things back to me now is pretty neat honor. And I'll have to tell a funny story about how I feel like on one side, I was like, nailed it. On the other side, total failure. So recently I had lunch with my oldest son's girlfriend's mom, and we were talking, and she said something. And then I was like, well, we're not really sure what his career looks like because, he's colorblind because he wants to enlist, and we're not sure how that's going to impact him. And she looked at me and she was like, you know that he's colorblind? And I was like, yes, I am. Yes. Are you surprised that I know that he's colorblind?
Hmm.
And so, like, I guess how the conversation went, without assigning blame to anybody, was they went on a trip and they noticed that he was getting some colors wrong. And so they asked him, like, did you know you were colorblind? And his response was, no, I didn't. And after further questioning, he said that he was more referring to, he didn't know what type he was. But the backstory is that he says he doesn't remember ever being told he was colorblind. Yet I have this totally different perspective of all the times I went to school and I was advocating with the teacher, because it's a very misunderstood diagnosis. So it doesn't have, there's not like there's no adjustment plans or learning accommodations like for that. There are some things you can do, but it's not like it's something like dyslexia that they can get certain accommodations for. They can get accommodations like reading things, but it's not widely studied, so they don't understand how it impacts other areas of learning. So this is something that I have, all three of them are colorblind. So we would go in and have strategy sessions with the teachers about, okay, so this is a strategy. You have to start, like, he has to read the crayon. You can't quiz him on colors. So you can't be like, go get the red crayon, go get the blue crayon. You have to give him that, or we have to teach him how to read them. So he doesn't ever remember being taught that strategy. He just is doing that. That's just part of his everyday life, right? So when we're talking about it, I was like, how do you not remember all those times that we worked on strategies for dealing with this and asking for help and all these learning? He was like, I don't know, it's just normal for me. And I realized that my goal was, I didn't want this to be a crutch for him. So we just normalized it. Like in our home, we don't say, go get the the brown sweatpants, or we don't identify things by color. I just say, describe it differently. Like I would say, go pick out your sweatpants, or get the sweatpants with the cuff on the bottom. We just don't use color as an identifier because they're all a different type of colorblind. So they see it all differently. I've asked them before to go get the brown sweatpants, and they would both come back with, not, like, they didn't know where they were. I went into the room and I'm like, they're right here, guys. And they're like, well, this one's yellow and the other one said it was green. So, like, they see that we can't use color as an identifier. So our whole family system has shifted to accommodate colorblindness, to the point that he's so confident he's not colorblind because it's never an issue for him.
Wow. So Jessica, let me ask you, when that happened, was there a moment of like embarrassment?
Percent. I
Yeah.
felt like I needed to defend myself and explain myself, and that I was being judged, even though she was not doing that. It was a me thing. I felt like I'm a bad mom because I didn't do XYZ, and I felt very uncomfortable.
Or
Mm.
initially, did you think why my son misrepresented me.
And I did. I went home and I was like, "Why did you hang me out on the line to dry, my dude?" You know?
Yeah.
He's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to." And go ahead.
No. Well, I just want to say one of the things that I think has really helped with my children is when I've identified myself and my I'll just say my son in particular, because there's something about a father and a son, and there's a real legacy thing going on there, like carrying
Yeah.
on the name and that sort of thing. But I really tried to be sure that my identity wasn't tied to others, including and perhaps especially my family. And so when there came times like that, where my initial response would have been, or what the tendency would be like, complete defensiveness, like I would just have tried to have covered that so much. But when I've not tried to embarrass my child in those moments, it's always paid off. It's always gone better. And I am certain, I know you well enough that you would not do that as a rule. I believe you would catch yourself more times than not to, all
It
right,
is
put it in
very
perspective. Let me
difficult.
get the rest of the information. Protect your sons that way, by the way.
It is very difficult when you feel insignificant or you
Mm.
feel like you're not
Inadequate.
being, yes, acknowledged for the work that you do. I did feel like in that situation, it warranted some explanation as to, the story of like people don't understand that very well at all. So I love talking about it in general because I think it's such a under discussed area of how it impacts kids. But when I told her, I think this is how it came, I hope this is how it came across, was like, nope, that's not it, but I can see why he would maybe say that because it's been so normalized in our house that there's part of him that doesn't want to be colorblind, like he can master it. And many arguments he isn't because like, again, this is a nuance, but vivid color he can see, but it's gradients that are difficult, technically considered color deficient, not color blind, because he can still see vivid colors. So it's like people would tell him he was lying or say you're not really colorblind because you can see this. So there's a lot of confusion around it even for them. And I just never, you hope that you're doing the right thing and building confidence for them, but then it like comes back on the situation like that. I was like, maybe I should have let him pick up a few hard knocks on that one just to keep it real.
Yeah. Yep.
But wanting to
Yes.
spare your kids from pain, someone told me early on, I'm grateful for this. Jessica, you're going to want to protect your kids from every attack, but they don't belong to you. They're on loan to you.
That's right.
And
Whoever told you that, right on.
they're on loan to you and you can't protect them from their testimony they'll give one day. And that just like, I think of all the things that I've been through and the things that my mom would have wished to spare me from, but how they have shaped and molded me. And I'm grateful that she stood in the gap and said, I can't save you from this, but I can walk with it through you or walk through it with you. I can be here on the other side to give you a hug. There's just so many, it's the hardest thing is to not allow your own search for significance to muddy the waters of allowing your child to experience that. The caveat to that is I will say, don't forget, moms, that this is, as much as this is your child's childhood, it is also your motherhood. And it's your experiences too. And it's okay to have a motherhood experience and it not be just for the kids all the time. Does that make sense?
Mm,
So, like, if I
mm.
wanted to experience something with my kids and they don't want to, I can still ask, like, that's something I've always wanted to do as a mom. And I'm going to do this with you, and
Yes.
we're going to go do this because this is part of my motherhood journey as well. I'm writing a journey about motherhood just as much as I'm shaping a childhood at the same time. And even though I have years of experience on them, I'm still living every single day for the first time. This is the first time I've lived today. And should get to experience that with awe and wonder just as much.
Man, can I say something here? This is an aha moment you just gave me. Like, I talk with my siblings, we're all grown up, right? And when we were younger, mom would just sometimes have some harebrained ideas. And of course, they were pretty much every time a blast, right? We'd be like, sometimes we'd kick and scream, like, oh, that sounds, and then we'd have fun, right? So, what you're saying though here, I think this is good for adults and adult children and for all of us, siblings or not. So, what you're saying is if mom says, hey, I really want everybody to do this thing, it's not just mom has an expectation, which we did an episode on, or that she's being whatever. She just, that's what she wants to experience as a mom, is her kids in a particular situation. And she's like, before I check out and I give away my mom duties, like which arguably won't be till the day she passes, right? So you're saying, like, give your mom a chance to have that experience. So, like, step up to the plate with your siblings and be like, hey, mom wants to do that. Let's do that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and as adult children, you may not want to go home to mom's house. You may want to host your own and nest in your own place, but don't forget that she still has a dream of having all her kids come home for Easter. She still has a
So
dream
good.
of having, Christmas morning at her house and all the grandkids sleeping over. Like, those are things that I have to remember as a daughter-in-law too. Yes, I'm making my own way, but my mother-in-law raised my son, and she's having to say goodbye to him just like I will have to say goodbye to my kids, and to steward over that and to gift those moments back to her as well is really important. That, and no relationships are perfect. We're all trying to figure it out, but if we can live complementary to one another and cheering for one another rather than competing against one another, man, that makes a huge difference in who we are as women and who we are as mothers and who we are as partners, and all of that working harmoniously together. It's not a competition. It's not a competition. Every mother has a unique fingerprint that she will make, and it's high time we honored that again, you know?
This is
I'm
one of
dying to
those.
ask you something, Jessica. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead, bro.
You go ahead.
Well, I've thought about this a lot, Jessica. So you're talking about these different stages, and I'm watching you right now having to navigate basically three different stages at the same time. Like, you have one that's the oldest, right? And so he's been through all three stages, but then also though, you're in a new stage with him, right? Navigating a new stage, and then you have these other two that are still new stages because it's two new guys. It's two different guys navigating those the same way, right? So how do you what are the how do you how do you wear one, much less three different hats to go through each of these stages? I mean, I already thought you're busy. I know you're busy, but now I'm like really starting to get a whole different perspective on what you're dealing with over there. It's crazy.
You have to learn to let go gracefully. I think that is like, it is about influence, not control. And I think, the definition of influence is to create create connection that pulls someone in, and then you have the wisdom and the stewardship to guide them to where they want to go, versus manipulation, which is drawing someone in and guiding them to where you want them to go. And as a mom, manipulation, control. And as a mother, it is so important that I remember my job is to influence you, which means that the conversations aren't about where you're going. It's about what kind of man do you want to be when you get there? And how can I call that man out in you? How can I help you form your sense of identity early on that's who you want to be? And then how do I remind you of that truth? How do I encourage you, cheer for you instead of criticizing you? That's what I hope to do. I hope that and do I do it perfectly? No. Do I sometimes say, well, that was a real bonehead thing to do, and you're better than that? And we don't get a TED talk on it, right? Yes, absolutely. But I think that's the raw realness of that, is willing to have the conversation. Macklin is almost 11, and he was laying in the bed next to me yesterday, and he was like, Mom, I don't tell you enough how much you do for us. I don't think I even notice it enough. And I told him, I was like, thank you. I thank you. I receive it all. You're right. I do, because you don't want to get in the habit of reminding your kids or be like, do you see how much I do for you? Like that's ick stuff.
Well, that is a great opportunity to tell him, you're right. You don't tell me enough. Good. Hey,
I
I
did.
want to say before we wind this down, I've had two mothers in my lifetime. I have my birth mother, and she made a huge sacrifice in seeing me out and passing the baton, as it were, to another mother. She didn't know, no, she had hope that it was going to be better than what she thought she could do and what she thought she could provide at the time as a 19-year-old without a father in the picture. And so this huge, huge sacrifice. And I think that's the thing that I would want to summarize about motherhood and what my experience has been. The first one who had me, loved me enough to
Mm,
pass me on, and a mother throughout my entire life that, as the point was made here about what mothers need sometimes, and I know that my mother makes me feel like her favorite time of every week is when Carrie and I go over to their house for Sunday brunch, and she has an opportunity to still cook a meal for us because that's what one of the ways that she expresses her love and shows love. And yet, like this Easter Sunday, her first instinct was, well, is there other plans? Were you going to go someplace else, Carrie? Were you going to go be with your family? Is that something she's willing to, as much as she wants that, and she lets you know that like this is important. However, I'm willing to forego if there's another, if there's something else that's more important to you, or however that would be phrased or said. So it's sacrifice, it's unconditional love, and I've gotten it so much. And I know my biological mother now as well, and have a life with her, and she continues that. She continues that. Um, she too is so sacrificial and so uh, outward focused, just
mhm.
really loving. Grand, a great grandmother to my children.
Well, as I give you
You're
the,
gonna be a grandmother someday, Jessica.
I'm gonna be a GG. I've already decided that's what I'm gonna be.
It is.
To give a wrap it up takeaway. It's just there's a duality to motherhood that it's not about you, but you still have a right to ask for what you need and what you want to experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not either or. Motherhood is the greatest and you will ever give. It is expose you if you're feeling frustrated or angry. I would invite you to reflect and say, what is that might need to be healed in me? Because healed people don't get angry like that, right? They don't think that their motherhood is happening to them, but their motherhood is helping them become. It's taught me the more about my faith and unconditional love. It has taught me and helped me heal pieces of myself that I would have rather kept exiled forever, but I had to embrace them and do the work to do the inner healing. I wrote a whole curriculum called Brave Motherhood about helping moms recognize the grief in motherhood and like processing that and how to work through that. And then call to your children to who they're becoming, not who you want them to be. Have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Identity of who do they want to become, so you can be the whisper in their ear about how to become that, and allow there to be adventure and laughter and fun, and do it. It's your journey. Don't ever forget. And I remind my kids that often. The one thing that they will know, and my son joked about, if he gets a tattoo, he has to get this one first, is remember who you are and whose you are every day. And that's something we've said to them since they were very, very little. And it's just remember who you are and whose you are. So I thank you, Mom, to my mom, for all the sacrifices that you made, all the times that you didn't say something when you could have, and all the times you said something when you didn't have to. That mattered and it shaped me. And I'm just ever so grateful for the women that have been a mother to me, not just biologically. That's been a tribe of women throughout my life that have shaped me. And I'm so grateful that motherhood is something that spans way beyond biology. It's a movement, if you will. It's a lifestyle, and it's part of who we are. We were made for this. Even if you don't have children and you're listening to this, there's part of you that knows what it's like to mother over someone, to care for them, to shape them, and to impact them. And I just encourage you to lean into that. You have a great fingerprint that you're shaping tomorrow's future every single day.
Let's launch this on Mother's Day, Monday.
I was just thinking that. I was like, the timing is going to come out pretty close to being Mother's Day weekend. Yeah.
We can do it. We'll change it.
Justin, you want to close us
Mark,
out today with your final thoughts on this?
Yeah, my final thoughts are that I just want to give, my mom knows how I feel about her, and we luckily have a beautiful, close friendship and relationship. But I want to give her a public shout out because she is the most phenomenal human and woman I know. And my goal is to bring value to people on the planet, and the strength and guidance that she's given me was the launch pad for that. It's for who I am today. I think I'm a pretty good dude, and I have her to thank for that. So, Mom, love you. Thank you so much. You are the best. And I think I'll sign us off. For all of you listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to Big Ideas, a podcast about people, perspective, and the ideas that shape who we're becoming. If this episode sparked something for you, stay curious. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
See you. The wind beneath our wings.
Yeah, for sure.